Wait for it. Wait for it. And we're live. Hey, all you crazy sci-fi and fantasy fans. It's time for your daily dose of shenanigans over here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. Just a couple of nerdy veterans geeking out over our science fiction passions and fantastical fantasies. A place where magic is king, the sky is the limit, and space is the place. We are the podcast that puts the fun in dysfunction. So without further ado, Stabby, I don't know if you know this, but it has been decided that at Nick's funeral, I will be reading the modified version of the podcast intro at his eulogy. He has so required and requested.
I've even given notes.
You're muting yourself.
I was yelling at him for a second. No, I am perfectly fine with you giving the eulogy because I will be a hot fucking mess. So.
Well, I mean, we don't want it to be for another couple hundred years, so I'll be Skeletor by then, but I'll totally do it for you. See, I just jumped franchises, and we haven't even gotten started yet.
Yeah, I don't think he wants to hang on a couple hundred more years. I have to usually convince him to get up every morning, so.
Well, you know,
who wants to live forever?
Come on, you apes. You want to live forever?
No.
Elon Musk, maybe?
All right. So with that being said, we're going to let our guests in. I'm going to go in alphabetical order because I can do the alphabet, people. I'm a smart grunt. We're going to start with Mr. Andrew Warren. Can you introduce yourself to the listeners and viewers?
Hey, everybody. I am a writer. I write spy thrillers under Andrew Warren and space fantasy under A.A. Warren.
All right. Space fantasy. That's sexy stuff right there. And then I'm going to check my cheat sheet because, you know, that's how we do. Isaac Kraft, can you introduce yourself to the listeners and viewers back at home?
Hey, I'm a baby author. I'm in anthologies with the Corner Scribblers and under Three Ravens Publishing, and working my way towards becoming a novelist under Three Ravens.
Okay, you gotta start somewhere.
On the side, I'm doing graphic design work. Possible working on some cover art.
That's always good, useful. People got to make them covers. Apparently, when I beat a little too hard when Nick made our cover, so I might have to find someone else. She's still in recovery. It's ugly. It was really bad.
Just like that. That's well, cool, actually. That's the way the cover game crumbles.
Stabby said you were crying in a corner. We were just too mean, and that I needed to be nicer. I don't know what that was about. I mean, we don't judge.
I'll show you.
Yo, Joe. All right. So next we've got in alphabetical order Jenna and Jana. No, Jana then Jenna because alphabet. She's going to introduce two of her 3, 4, however many personalities.
Yo, JR! Yes, it's 4 now, but we're only going to talk about 2 of them because the others are super secret. Actually, they're not super secret. It's just one is romance, and we don't talk about the romance squishy stuff on this podcast unless you ask me to. Jana S. Brown writes nonfiction and cookbooks. I help people learn how to publish. I specialize in self-publishing and working with small presses like Three Ravens. And Jenna Ray writes science fiction, fantasy, urban fantasy, and all of the weird and the wonderful.
Weird and wonderful is our watchword. We like to do it that way up in here.
Woo!
So I'm mostly the king of the weird, and then they do the wonderful, but it works for us. All right.
Section? Where the hell do I get on that?
Like she gets all nice people, and she makes them not hate us. It's it's how we
people
do.
Hate us, but we're adorable.
We get hate mail apparently to Stabby. I mean, it's kind of pathetic and anemic. Like they're not sending like the good stuff. I expect better from you, dear listener. So click that link tree at the that's in the show notes. We'll read it to you at the end so you don't forget. And see if you can get a doozy. I want it so good. Even the moderators over on Instagram or Twitter or on her email are like, "What the hell's going on here?" Like I want like red alerts to go off in all of the major alphabet agencies. All right, that's how we do. All right.
No hate mail, just a lot of love for the Stabby.
Always.
That wasn't what we asked for, but sure. I mean, you could send love letters too, but then Nick gets cranky. It's a whole thing.
That's not true. That's not true at all.
Well, I won't judge. So, Paul, can you introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers?
I'm Paul Sparks. I'm a newer author. I've got 3 short stories out and 3 anthologies. Here's 2 of them: Standing Free and Standing Fast. I've got another anthology in the middle of going to be getting published soon, and I'll write just about anything that will sell.
Well, in that case, come on over to the romance side because it always sells and it's fun. just saying.
Hey, I could write.
If you'll write anything,
I could write
come on over.
paranormal romance if necessary.
Woohoo! Okay, that's a different show.
Okay,
I tried
write
the romance scene once, and I still haven't recovered emotionally from the scarring of that incident.
Oh, you know you love it.
Well, no. So I wrote in my first series there was no FTL, so people were cryo or frozen, whatever, for travel. So I wanted to set up that he have kids because in that situation, in theory, you could meet your great grandkids if you're frozen long enough. And so I wrote a sex scene just to show he had kids in the prologue to take forward. And I sent it to my mom, who was my first line reader. And she said, I don't know what you and your wife were doing, but go practice and then fix this. Yeah, it was, I mean, I still cry at night to that one. It's brutal. But I'm going to need a moment. It'll be okay. All right. With that being said, we have 2 new guests who have not answered our religion question. So first, we got Mr. Andrew Warren, sir. Star Wars, Star Trek, or Firefly?
Wait, I thought Beastmaster was an option, you said.
Well, I mean, you could change it, but we were sticking with the original, and Nick and I are debating what the new ones are going to be because it's just not fair. Everyone says a certain one that's the king of kings of a certain genre, and so we're trying to mix it up with the permanents. But it will always be Star Wars, Star Trek, or Firefly.
Can I be like polytheistic, like a little bit of everything? Or I got to pick one.
Sure.
That's the second question.
Well, no.
I said yes the last time.
So yes to all 3 is okay. I mean, we don't judge our polyamorous friends, right? Love who you love.
And when it comes to that, but definitely poly. Yes to all 3.
Okay.
And
okay.
More. And Beastmaster.
Isaac, you have not answered this question either. So you get to Star Wars, Star Trek, or Firefly. You get the limelight. I know you were already answering sort of, but now all focus is on you, sir. We're going to put you there. You're in the hot spot, all right? What is the right answer, sir?
The answer is lightsabers. I'm going to go with Star Wars.
Oh, why did it go to Andrew? I told it to go to Isaac.
Like, am I supposed to say something?
No, StreamYards is hooking me up with like trying to make me look bad, and I do that well enough on my own. Thank you very much. All right, now that you're in the hot seat, for real, Star Wars, Star Trek, or Firefly?
The answer is Star Wars because of lightsabers. Good or bad, going to Disney or not, lightsabers make everything better.
All right. And so this is the episode where all of the guests have figured out the comment section on the side. And now I'm like, oh, so many squirrels rolling. So many squirrels. With that being said, now, because we're polytheistic, Game of Thrones, Wheel of Time, or Lord of the Rings? Mr. Andrew.
Lord of the Rings.
Outstanding. So this is why we're going to be changing that religion question. As soon as we stop being lazy and, stuff happens. So what about you, Isaac? Game of Thrones, Wheel of Time, or Lord of the Rings?
Lord of the Rings, totally.
All right, that's an acceptable answer. It's the expected answer. And now, since the last time you did this episode for Paul, this is a new one, but we are not uncivilized here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. We are fine, upstanding gentlemen. So, coffee or tea, and how do you take it? All right, there, Andrew.
Coffee with protein powder in it.
Wait. Protein powder and coffee. Go on. We're listening.
Doing it for years. That's my morning drink. Black coffee, protein powder.
Oh,
it's a good drink. Makes it a little mocha if you get the chocolate flavor.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a mocha,
All right, Isaac.
I take it with whole milk. If I run out of the Keurig K-Cup coffee, then it's instant coffee with whole milk and the really good maple syrup, like in the glass bottle.
Okay.
That's the only good maple syrup is the ones that come in those glass bottles that cost like $10, $20 a bottle.
Yeah. In this case, it's $7, but yeah.
Okay. And Yeah. So, Paul, you get to answer the coffee question because you didn't answer this one last time, back when we were the Sci-Fi Shenanigans.
Well, I answered it when I was on the last Blasters and Blades podcast.
Did you? How did I forget? It must have been such a horrific answer. I blacked it out of my mind, or I was blackout drunk. One of the two. Both are possible. I was a grunt.
I said neither.
See, that's why I blacked it out. That's a horrible answer. You said what?
I don't drink coffee and I don't drink tea.
What do you drink?
What kind of writer are you?
I drink Rain energy drinks or the Mio stuff that you can put in a water bottle.
Oh, that works.
Those are acceptable. We've consulted the Oracle, and they agreed that is an acceptable answer.
Okay. I guess the Oracle has decided. All right, with that being said,
it's really just my Boston Terrier Domino, who's always putting his head up and down. So, but he's the Oracle.
Old man.
Okay, I mean that works. All right, with that being said, the next part of the introduction is how we found them. And so I'll have you know that Nick and I were in a 12-step group for people who were considering giving up on coffee, and they helped us realize that Mama didn't raise no quitters, so we drink coffee still. Coffee brand coffee is good if you want. You know, we hook you up with some affiliate linkages in the bottom in the show notes. But so it's a 12-step group for people who realized they couldn't be quitters. Unfortunately, Paul Sparks never made it past step one. So he's a quitter. He does not drink the coffee. But, you know, there's still hope for everybody, people. That's what we learned in the 12-step groups. All right. And if you read the title, Yo, Joe, it's time to duck and cover with the G.I. Joe franchise. 3 guesses what we're talking about tonight, people. If you guess G.I. Joe, you are right. So the first question is, who knows where, like, the franchise came from? Did anybody do their homework?
Originally, the first gen, like it was the 50s, right? The
70s.
70s? No, it was before the 70s, wasn't it?
I was watching watching YouTubing earlier today, and it was that they had action figures that they wanted to sell and comics that were going on, but because the Vietnam War was not popular, this whole line of American hero dolls was not moving very well. And also oil was expensive, and therefore the plastic to make them was becoming problematic and driving costs up. Yet Star Wars toys were selling all over everywhere because they were connected to this beloved franchise. And so they went, we need a beloved franchise that connects to somebody who is going to drive sales. And they went, oh, kids drive sales. And therefore they went to from the comics and the action figures to the cartoon, and then that branched off into movies because those of us who grew up with the cartoon then we want more, and so they made us movies. So that's the sketch that I got from all of my viewing today.
That's for the short figures, but there was actually an older line where they were, I don't know, they were 12-inch or 8-inch, like bigger figures, like from it was either late 50s or early 60s when it came out, and it died out, and then they brought it back.
Yep, Madam's got it in the chat.
Oh,
you want to read it, girl?
Yeah. I swear you should work for the FBI, honey. You love digging up shit.
She's amazing.
G.I. Joe originated from a comic strip in the 1940s called Private Gregor.
It's a licensed property of Hasbro. Hasbro's been around for a while, dude.
Yeah,
Hasbro's old.
She typed this too, but Nick whispered it, so I'll just say it because you don't want his bedroom voice. So it was a licensed property of Hasbro, and the G.I. Joe comics have been released from 1967 to present. When I looked into it, my research said the original work was America's Movable Fighting Man from 1964, but apparently my research does not trump Stabby's research. So I guess hats off to her.
Who's to say who's right, though? I mean, look, we dived into an enigma wrapped in a question. Kissed with it.
I think also the G.I. Joe figure is where the term action figure came from. Like
with
I think
Kung
that
Fu
is
Grip.
Yeah, that's because they didn't want to call it a doll because they didn't think that would sell to boys, so they came up with that term action figure.
1964.
Did anybody else watch that episode of The Toys That Made Us on Netflix? Where they talk about G.I.
That was
Joe?
awesome.
Love that.
Oh, I loved it. Where it's like you had like just You had I'll hook you up a link where you don't need it no more.
That works.
But
The Snake
the
Eyes
there's
was
four
the
of
best
them
part of that
first.
story. The
Yeah,
history of the Snake Eyes figure, like how that came to be.
I got to rewatch that now after this show. I should have
Says
watched it
in
before.
1964, G.I. Joe launched the entire category we now call action figures.
Yeah.
With Don
With the fuzzy
Lee.
hair and beards.
Lifelike hair, yeah.
Lifelike hair. It was like Chia Pet hair. It was awesome.
Okay.
And
Almost lost the
So what was
look at
that?
us. If we piece it all together, it's like history. It's amazing.
yeah,
Yeah. So what was everyone's first experience with G.I. Joe? Did they find the comics, the cartoon, if you're of the right age, the action figures? Like, how did everyone discover G.I. Joe?
Cartoons and the action figures, and never really got into the comics much. It was mainly the cartoon show.
Okay. What about you, Nick?
it was the cartoons, and then actually I think it was the action figures first. I got into the action figures first because I'm a child of the 70s and 80s. So yeah, I got the action figure first, and that's when they were kind of like just the generic green ones with like maybe they had like a bandolier grenades. You had like a not tripwire. Who was it? Had some really. They're just really. We don't have time for me to consult the.
Grunt.
Well, while he's thinking about it, for me it was I got a VHS episode of like two of the cartoons and a one of the action figures of who's the one that has the Navy? He was wearing the dungarees. Shipwreck.
Shipwreck.
Yeah, Shipwreck, and it had a VHS of two of the episodes because I'm old enough that I know what VHS is. And they sold it, I'm sure, at the Naval Exchange. And stepdad got it for me to convince me that all of the uncles in the Army were wrong, and he was right. The Navy was the way. I showed him, though. I enlisted in the Army as a bosun's mate. But anyway, so that was it for me. I got the cartoon and the figures at the same time. And I look at what some of those original figures I had, were if I had them still unopened, brand new, would be worth today. I'm like, dude, I could buy like several houses for those.
Oh, don't do it to yourself.
I had the USS flag. I had the USS flag.
I hate you. I wanted that, but my mother didn't love me enough.
1984 retailed at that time at $89.95 in today's dollars. That'd be a $400 thing.
Mm-hmm.
So what about you, Isaac?
We ended up blowing it up.
Oh,
yeah.
You death barged the flag. Oh
Yeah.
my lord! If you had a time machine, you'd go back in time and kick the hell out of yourself.
Oh yeah.
all right.
Friend's pool. We loaded it with fireworks and simulated a cobra attack on it.
Oh, harsh.
What'd you do next? Go and kick some kittens? Oh.
He pushed an old lady in front of a train.
Pour sugar in your mom's gas tank.
In 91, so we were still in high school at the time.
Oh wow, man! My lord,
things kids do.
All right, Isaac, try to save the emotional downward spiral we're going on, imagining not only did he get the thing we all wanted, he then blew it up. So, Isaac, it's all on you to turn this around.
I didn't do much with the cartoons, but I saw the movie. And I played with the figurines, the action figures. The highlight of G.I. Joe was the action figures and the play sets and the vehicles. All of that. That was always the highlight of Christmas and birthday. I had cousins who had them, and we'd get together and play. And it was one of those things where even when they got old enough to sell them off and get a stereo, I hung on to mine.
Good man.
Okay. What about you, Jana? Or Jenna? Either one of you can answer.
Well, they're not difficult. No, I was comics, cartoon, action figures, movies. In that order. Because I hit
cartoon
the
movie?
comics first. No, well, there was the cartoon movie, and then they started doing the live action movies, and I've missed like the last two, but the
You're not missing
There were
original.
only ever 2 live action movies.
There
Well,
was
there
G.I.
was
Joe
there,
and
there's
Snake
Electric
Eyes.
Hope.
There was the Snake Eyes spinoff too.
yes,
Oh,
that's the
yeah,
other one.
Snake Eyes spinoff.
Yeah,
So
the Rise
bad.
of Cobra I didn't see, and the Snake Eyes spinoff I didn't see, but I think I've seen everything else that's part of the property and the cartoons multiple times because I have issues, and they were great.
Okay. What about you, Stabby? We didn't ask you. So, Nick, mute yourself so Madam Stabby McStabberson can answer all of these questions.
How does her name get longer?
Every time.
I mean,
So I'm the only girl in my family, and I have a lot of brothers and a lot of cousins, and so I never really liked Barbies in the first place. I liked playing with what my brothers had. Their action figures, their G.I. Joes, and so when my mom finally realized that Barbies were not a good idea anymore was shortly after my birthday. They gave me a whole bunch of Barbies, and she found me shaving their hair off so they can join the Joes.
Nice.
That was my introduction to G.I. Joe. And I just kind of fell in love with it after that. It also helped that I have every military branch in my family, so I felt like, Thanksgiving dinner was a dinner with the G.I. Joe crew.
Sweet.
Okay. Well, thank you, Madam Stabby McStabberton, the 4th Dame of Daggertown and the Duchess of the Broadsword. Is that long enough for you, Nick?
name.
First of her name, apparently.
First of her name.
First of her name.
All right. So, did your mother ever emotionally recover for all of the hair you chopped off of those poor Barbies?
She still buys me Barbies.
Oh, so the joke hasn't died yet.
Syndrome.
It has not.
Do you shave their head
It's
off and send them back?
hilarious. No, they wind up in a box in her closet. So she hasn't found the box. She hasn't found the box yet. But
It's gonna be a horrifying day.
When
She's
you find that
slowly
box, they might be worth something as collector's items by then because they've never been opened.
She's bought me the holiday ones, the birthday ones, the special anniversary ones, as well as like she'll buy like the NSYNC ones and the Spice Girl ones and stuff, and they just slowly get added into that box that is in her closet. And she's slowly been sending things back home with me because, she's getting up there in age. She's like, Marissa, take all the family photos. You can pass them out to everybody when I'm gone. And I'm like, man, she's going to find that box one day and I'm still going to wind up with all the Barbies.
Yeah.
But she hasn't found it yet. She has not found the box of Barbies yet. So we're on the right track. That'll be a fun FaceTime, though. That'll be a fun FaceTime.
You think she's going to? Is there hope?
Oh, yeah. She's definitely going to find that box. She's going to be... They're all still in
Does
their
she
original
listen to the podcast?
No.
Okay, then we're good.
As long as nobody snitches, we're solid.
All right, now that we got my voice in echo.
Wow.
Wow.
All right, so Nick, I'm gonna shoot you. All right, so now that we've established how we all found the all right, I'm gonna figure out who's doing this. Mute. There we go. I've just muted them all. The king of the mute. Now that we figured out how everybody was introduced to G.I. Joe, do you have a favorite character? Now you can unmute your freaking selves, people.
Forget about it.
Sorry, guys. Sorry.
All right. What was the question, JR?
Who's your favorite?
Oh, who's my favorite beachhead?
Beachhead?
Why am I echoing now?
I'm muted.
What in the hell?
Can we pretend this is professional? And we get the jokes over.
Well, my favorite is I always like Snake Eyes.
Is there a reason?
I just thought he was cool. Duke seemed too high strung and straight laced. Flint was more of the I don't know. I just like Snake Eyes. He was cool. He was quiet. He was a badass.
Okay. What about you, Andrew?
I mean, Snake Eyes is not like I love Snake Eyes, but since he said it, I'll go with the next one, which was Storm Shadow, because it just perfectly timed with that 80s like ninja craze. And I already love G.I. Joe. I love ninjas, and there's a Cobra Ninja. I'm like, I'm in. Like, he was also really the coolest character in the comics, I thought, in the comic book. So I was a huge Storm Shadow fan.
All right. What about you, Jana?
I am still a big fan of the Baroness. I don't care if she's the bad guys. Part of that, why she's cool, is because she's the bad guys. She kicked ass, she took names, and for somebody like me who has had glasses since I was very, very young, it was one of the first times that you saw a cartoon character who was allowed to be very, very cool and also wore glasses. She would go to disguises without glasses, and then she would come back and put the glasses back on. And it's like, yeah, the glasses were part of her thing. And it was like, okay, that is suddenly very, very cool. There's a whole episode where she's kicking ass in bikini. It's like, who does that? None of the other Joes can do that. You don't see any of the guys pull that crap off. But she wears a bikini through the whole thing. And yeah, and she tosses
She wore a
over.
skin-tight leather suit with a corset and
I
kicked
know.
ass.
It's amazing. The whole thing is
And here
just,
I'm at 8 years old with a new pink detected. I'm like, I didn't even know I was into that.
Yep, she's my favorite.
Okay. I don't know. Like I said, as a kid, it was Shipwreck just because I grew up on a Navy base. But I don't know. Who was the one that as a beachhead that had a Hawaiian look going on?
No,
that's
Chuckles.
Chuckles. There we go. That was the one that I liked because he just seemed so irreverent and out of
And you just
uniform.
named both of my favorites. Good job, JR.
I do what I can. And Nick is going into his Bosco Toy.
That's because Beachhead is my guy.
Nice.
But I love
Okay.
Chuckles too.
Where'd you
Because
fucking go?
how can you not love Chuckles? I mean, with Chuckles, he forgets who he is.
Okay.
He most of the time he can't even remember if he's with the good guys or if he's with the bad guys because he's so deep under. I absolutely love that storyline.
And if I remember correctly, Chuckles and Shipwreck in the cartoon sounded almost the same. I don't know if it's the same voice actor or if that's just kind of
I think they were
how
the
they
same.
said it. Yeah. Like, come on, Polly, show him what's for. That was Shipwreck.
And this guy was a bad G.I. Joe because Time on Target didn't work for him. But we got Michael LaVoice joining us, day job and all that. But so we were asking everybody, what's your favorite?
I'm really sorry. I can't hear anything right now. I've got audio issues. I worked late. It's been a thing.
Okay. So what about, did you say, Andrew, what your favorite was? I don't think so.
Oh, I did. I was Storm Shadow.
Okay, you were Storm Shadow. Okay. Was there anyone we didn't get to answer yet? Okay, we'll move on. Do you have a favorite bad guy? Nick's nodding along.
Oh, yes.
It's Cobra Commander, wasn't it?
No, actually it was okay, so I got two of them. One of them is actually a central character and the other one is just kind of nameless henchman, but I like the way they looked. I like Destro. Yeah, I'm a Destro guy. And then for the nameless dude, the Crimson Guard, especially when they repainted him with Python Patrol, I thought that was the coolest stuff ever. I bought like 5 of them.
Love Destro.
Okay. So what about you, Isaac? Did you have a favorite bad guy?
I would have still gone with Cobra Commander. In the cartoon, what I've seen of the cartoon at least, he's uptight and hyper, but he's still a genius in what he does, and hard to kill. And what I saw in the movie, he's fell for the last time, and I was a man, and the transition of character development of what he has to go through, and then the research of what happens to him after that movie, and the restoration, and then back to square one, and there's just no stopping that guy, even though they think that they've got him. And the rise of Serpentor, because Cobra Commander failed for the last time, and the thought of I'm just a fan of Cobra Commander, and anyhow, that's my thoughts.
Okay. What about you, Jana or Jenna?
I like Zartan. The whole man of many colors. He's got. I mean, he was in the comics. He did even more because they talked about how he was an expert ventriloquist, among other things. So he could throw his voice. He could take on any role, any gender, anything else. And it's like, yeah, this is your undercover guy, and just smart as a whip. You don't always see that in the cartoon, but when you start piecing it together, he knew his crap and ran his own thing. He was my guy.
Okay.
If we're gonna talk bad guys, we can't forget Zema and Tomax.
Oh,
Absolutely.
the Crimson Guard commanders.
That was actually on my list too. In addition to Cobra Commander, was those two because they had the cool outfits.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was all about the costuming. So the one thing I liked, and I've seen this in some of the memes, is the jokes about the Cobra Enterprises actually was the ideal corporate citizen because it had the health benefits, and you always see like all the facilities they had for their employees. So I have to say, I wonder if as kids we were wrong all along about who the good guys were.
They talk about that in the rap album. What was the name of that rap album they did?
Wait, there's a G.I. Joe rap album? How did I not know this?
Yeah.
Cobra Island.
Yeah, Welcome to Cobra Island by Wordburger. They do, it's a whole Word Burglar. I like Wordburger better. They should change their name because I'm awesome. But they do a whole album talking about how, like, they talk about Cobra Island. They talk about the Joes, specifically Snake Eyes coming back from Vietnam and his journey.
They go into how his family died because
The car crash, right?
Brother.
Yeah.
Was
like, I didn't know that part of like the lore until I listened to that. I'm like, no, that can't be right. And then
and Chuckles has his own song.
Chuckles has his own song, yeah. I have a Hawaiian shirt. Maybe I'll be Chuckles for Halloween.
I'd have to be old.
So was Chuckles inspired by Hawaii 5-0, or did that come after? Because I always saw that similarity.
I don't know.
The original Hawaii 5-0 is definitely before Chuckles, but they did reboot it, so I don't know.
So Chuckles came out because the G.I. Joe movie came out in what, like 86, 87? So, yeah, that's way before the reboot.
I think
20th, 1987.
I always thought he was kind of looked like Don Johnson a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny because Don Johnson had a voice in that movie.
Yeah,
he was Falcon.
Falcon.
I think it was just that time in the 80s where like CIA deep cover operatives were always shown wearing Hawaiian shirts in tropical environments. I think that's pretty much where they got that into. Like Magnum PI was a thing. It was a great thing. I was him for Halloween last year. Horrible.
And Miami Vice was that same kind of 80s into the 90s.
There's a lot of tropical detective shit going on in the 80s. And I think that's what inspired Chuckles.
And ninjas. Tropical detectives and ninjas.
Oh, I just watched American Ninja the other day. It was on Tubi. I was like, man, this is so horrible, and I still love it.
I love that movie.
But it's so good. I mean, it's pure cheese, but it's good cheese.
And the sequel was even better. The American Ninja 2.
Yeah, you could almost define the 80s by what flavor of ninja you saw on TV and whether it was nunchucks or the staff or, thank you, Ninja Turtles, for exposing us to all those characters. I will say that now, as an adult, my favorite character is indeed Sergeant Slaughter because he followed the podcast on Twitter. And he's super cool on outreach for like veterans issues, which, I can really appreciate. Like, rather than some Hollywood people get angry when they get typecast, he just leaned into it and made it a thing where he like used it to help people. Totally commendable. You don't see him hating the franchise that made him.
Yeah, that's great.
Since we were talking about ninjas and that whole 80s thing, do you know the throwing star was actually a product of Hollywood?
No way.
I'm not surprised. Go on.
The shuriken is not a real thing.
Shuriken, as you've seen in Hollywood, is not a real thing. What a shuriken is a nail taken down to a point that a samurai would use to throw at a enemy to distract so that he could move up and attack.
Oh man, I'm crushed. I'm so disillusioned now.
It gets worse.
You know what? on that note, LaVoice, can you hear us yet? So you can join in.
Yeah, audio and everything is fixed now. Very sorry for being late. Mea culpa.
So now that that's said, do you have a favorite? Like, you can join the conversation. So we've talked about how we found G.I. Joe and if you have a favorite good guy and bad guy. And then after that, we will jump to commercial where we will all mourn not knowing that the throwing stars weren't real.
Well, neither are the ninja costumes that they wore either. Ninjas didn't wear those pajamas either.
You were ruining the 80s for me, sir.
Hung out in alleyways and skulked. But anyway, yeah, my favorite Joe, first, last, and always is Snake Eyes. A very close second to that was Stalker. Anybody that can fly a jetpack and rhyme at the same time and drop grenades on bad guys, that's my boy.
Stalker was a ranger, just saying.
That's all I'm saying. But as far as I was first introduced to the Joes through the comics, and I'm of a huge minority because I really dug the fact that there were no superpowers. It was really cool to me at first. There were no superpowers. And then Zartan shows up and starts absorbing cami patterns. I was like, what is this crap? But I know there are a lot of Zoltar, the Dreadnoughts. There's a lot of fans of them, and I'm not knocking them. I was just not prepared for that crap. So it was a little upsetting. But as far as bad guys go, I always dug Serpentor. Cobra Commander was awesome because he was just like that little cockroach that just kept popping up. You couldn't get rid of him. And he was the mastermind. And I dug those issues of the comics where they went back and examined the old beginnings of Cobra when not everybody had uniforms. And Cobra Commander's like promising next year everybody will have uniforms and stuff. It was just like awesome. It was like, wow, the political, how do you keep this terrorist organization together when everybody doesn't have uniforms? And the Cobra Company was called ARBCO. It was an acronym. It was an anagram for Cobra. It was ARBCO. And I thought that was dope too. But Serpentor was really cool because he had all these history lessons he taught. I remember this one little short story like piece they put in one of the comics where Serpentor taught them the origins of pizza from the old Roman Empire.
Totally
you remember that?
Yeah, I read that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so I thought it was dope. I love Serpentor, but Snake Eyes is my boy.
You're my boy, Snake.
And with that being said, today's sponsor is Coffee Brand Coffee. So we want to thank them for sponsoring this episode. And we're going to show you this glorious commercial that Madam Stabby Stab made in her debut into film. So I expect somebody to rush to the interwebs as you do and create her own IMDb plus whatever that thingy is and make her one because she deserves it.
Coffee. Coffee.
Coffee.
Coffee.
Coffee.
Coffee. Coffee. Coffee. Coffee. Coffee.
Coffee.
Coffee. Coffee. Coffee. Coffee. Coffee. Coffee. The coffee. 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 Coffee.
And now you know what we're doing. We got coffee, people. They are sponsoring this episode. So if you go to Coffee Brand Coffee on the link in the comments, or you use the code podcast grunts, all one word, they are sponsoring this episode. So we get a little bit of a kickback if you use our code or our link to do the things. If you use the code, you do get a discount. So by getting the glorious Java that you would consume anyway, you help the show. And with that being said, Nick just posted in the comment section that he's out of coffee, so he has to go get more. And with that being said, we will carry on without him bravely, though. He will be back, I promise. And so, all right, so we talked about the good guys. We talked about the bad guys, but we haven't talked about the most important thing. Well, we've hinted on it when Paul made us cry, but the equipment that the G.I. Joes had. Does anybody have a favorite?
Are we doing just the Joe side or the whole franchise?
Yeah,
The whole franchise. There's so
whole
much
franchise?
glorious goodness.
Okay. All right. So
the
rock and
little
roll
Cobra models.
Gatling
Nope.
cannon on his motorcycle. Rock and roll had a Gatling cannon on a friggin' motorcycle, and that was the dopest thing to me ever until I saw the Rattler, which was basically just an A10 with an extra gunnery seat.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going scrolling through. See, Cobra Commander. There we go. He's rocking and rolling. See, that is the company fair where he was like dancing for his people because he was a good leader and he cared about his men. Just going to put that out there.
He also had an
so what about
explosive
you?
charge in his helmet.
I mean, you know, you do what you do for company dedication. I can respect that. So, Andrew, do you have a favorite vehicle?
I think the Hiss tank is just one of the most iconic designs like in toy history. Like that thing was so cool looking. Like that was one of the things that really got me into the toy line. I just love that thing.
You gotta love a double barrel tank.
Well, yeah.
With the reverse tread, like bigger on the front, smaller on the back.
Yeah.
They've got one. Well, see, that's the part thing is there were so many knockoffs that you could get like dollar store level knockoffs, and it was hard to like. What I had was I did have that G.I. Joe metal lunchbox in elementary school. Like it's hard to remember what was real and like what was I was getting knockoff and just didn't know it. But they had one that was almost like a Humvee with a giant cannon of some sort that would probably knock the vehicle over if it really fired. That'd be some E4 Mafia level shit if they did it. But I had one of those. I just don't know if it was really for G.I. Joe. But I did like the Hiss. I just
picture you have up. Is that it or
no? It was the olive green and Duke diecast figure G.I. Joe Hollywood Rides is what it's coming up with is now, but it doesn't look like it's actually G.I. Joe. Let me see if I can get a picture.
They've done re-releases on the toys recently. I saw a fantastically detailed Gung Ho action figure in Walmart the other day, along with the Baroness. And the Hiss tank is making a comeback. I've seen ads for that online. I think it's Hasbro's putting out like a high-end collectible Hiss tank.
the
Andrew, you might want to look at that.
Hasbro Labs or whatever.
Yeah.
If I
Yeah.
can get
They're
down
doing
to
all the
it.
high-end collectible stuff with Star Wars and G.I. Joe and
Sideshow Collectibles was doing an awesome line on G.I. Joes and Cobras. There were 12-inch action figures, like full, like sewn up kit, like body armor, stuff like that. Beachhead, they put his like maroon beret that he usually had tucked in his little epaulet.
Beachhead.
Had him put on his head. The Vipers were awesome and they sold out quick. You can get one now for about $500.
Jeez.
So is this
Nick,
when I remember as a kid, something
Nick.
similar to this.
Nick, do you remember that issue of the comic where Beachhead they inserted him into the cargo hold of an airplane and he was supposed to cut through the floor with like a laser torch or something, but he's sitting there doing this job and he's singing to himself, "I want to be an airborne ranger."
Yeah, because that's not a exaggeration. We do sing songs when we're trying to hurt people and do our missions.
It just makes the unaliving go better. That's all.
Yeah, the deleting of enemy personnel. We like to take.
I was always,
enemies and do that.
I always liked singing in the rain.
Yeah,
Singing in the Rain's a good one. When I was doing some sniping stuff overseas in a land that I'd never want to return to get my breathing right, I would do Frank Sinatra songs. "Fly Me to the Moon" was a personal favorite.
Oh my God,
So,
you're Hudson
Fly
Hawk.
me to the moon.
I was just gonna mention Hudson Hawk.
That I watched the hell out of that VHS too. I don't know what it is about that movie. It was just so damn fun as a kid
It was great.
that it just stuck in my head. So I was like, man, and then just the song popped in the first time.
You
I got behind a
mentioned
long gun.
before the break. You mentioned a musical group that had songs about GI Joe.
Yeah, what was it called? Not Warburger, but
Burglar.
Word
Yeah.
burglar. Word
But
burglar.
there's another band, a very obscure. They only put out one album. It was an offshoot of a band called Five Iron Frenzy. But the lead vocalist from that group, Reese Roper, put out a band very briefly called Roper, and they had a song on their debut album, actually their only album, but it's called Red Eye to Miami, and it's a song about GI Joe. It mentions Quinn, Snake Eyes, the guy that who was I think Major Blood, Venom, all these different characters from GI Joe are mentioned in the song, and it's just a great song. I don't know if it's out there anywhere. I have it on disc, of course, because I'm weird like that, but it's a great song. You'll love it.
We're in the age of the internet. Everything is available.
I'm not gonna go into my flag story. I don't need to make puppies cry again.
I do remember when I was a kid that I did liberate accidentally my sister's pink Barbie car and spray painted it green so I could have vehicles for some of the larger ones, because I inherited some of the what are those? They weren't the little ones; they were the fuller size Barbie size figures that some of the original ones the original size ones that I inherited
the 12
from
inch.
an uncle. Yeah, if I had kept them and not played the hell out of them, again, I might be buying houses, selling the originals. But so I had some of those. So I liberated my sister's pink Barbie Corvette or convertible or whatever it was, spray painted it green, and then like glued some sticks to it to have guns. Hold on, Nick, I got your solo layout.
Solo.
That's sweet.
Awesome. I like it better with the cowboy hat.
Are those the new? Is that the new like classified series?
I think these are the 30th anniversary ones they did out.
He's not wearing the right hat though. That's sacrilege. He's not wearing his cavalry hat.
30th anniversary.
Yeah,
They need the hat.
Even when he was flying, Wild Bill wore that hat.
That is not the 1983 figure.
No, not even close.
Tell that to the fucking price tag they put on it.
Well, the price tag, they duped you, honey.
They're wrong.
He's got the wrong hat.
It came with the base.
I'm not disagreeing that he came with the base, but that is not the original.
I paid for the
Wow,
base.
Bill had a boonie hat, had a cowboy hat.
He had
He had a cavalry hat. He had the cross sabers on it.
So it's funny listening to you guys talking about the his tanks and everything, because
you got the Jeeps.
I have the Jeeps, but I have the his tanks down in the base or in the basement.
Oh, and you got the plane too.
I have the plane too.
The hell was it called?
And those were original. I stole those from my brother.
the Cobra plane. It was blue.
The Rattler.
The Rattler, yeah.
Yeah.
The helicopter too.
And the helicopter, the Tomahawk.
I stole all the vehicles from my brother before he deported.
Deported?
Deported?
Nope.
Deployed?
Deployed.
Okay. I'm like, because I didn't touch him. I swear to God.
I was like, what did he do?
In case anybody here doesn't know, I'm dyslexic. So words in the brain don't come out.
Yeah. Rusepic, I think it's good for hemorrhoids.
But so I took all my brother's vehicles before he deployed.
He didn't deserve him. He was a Patriot missile specialist.
Wrong brother.
Oh, well, he was Air Force. He also doesn't count.
Yeah. But I found.
Hey, if you're watching this, Jeff LaVoie, my brother, did you hear that? Air Force doesn't count.
Well, here, I'll tell you. There's only two branches in the military, okay? There's the Army and the Navy, because the Air Force is a corporation and the Marine Corps is a cult.
I used to really piss off my Marine friends. I tell them, you're just a well-armed sailor. You don't even have your own department. And then they went and made a department of the Marine Corps.
You're Navy infantry. World's largest amphibious invasion in history. You guys were outside of Australia. Yeah, you can send the hate mail to me this time because I'll defend that because that's history.
You know who wasn't in that list? Space Force.
They didn't exist. Neither. Well, yeah.
I don't have one of them yet.
Air Force
So
was
what
Army
happens
Air
when your
Corps.
little brother has a son? I guess so. The Army's nephew is Space Force.
Sure.
That's
Yeah,
what
I mean, I'm not a genealogist or anything, but I'll buy that for $1.
Buy that
so-
for $1.
Yeah, so one of the original G.I. Joe action figures did involve a combat nurse. So I don't know that I've ever seen it, but even the Army recognized, you needed someone to patch the holes, which is ironic since they never seem to get hit.
Yeah, they had the medic who was a oh goodness, what was his name? I'm gonna have to write it.
Doc.
Yes.
Doc, the
Pacifist.
Aikido specialist.
There was
He was
Doc
a-
and Lifeline.
he was
but
a-
Lifeline, I think, was
He was
after
a
Doc.
peacenik. Doc
Yeah.
was a non-combatant and would not fire, would not carry a gun. And
Yep.
then this one episode where they meet up with the Russian version of G.I. Joe, the October Guard,
October
he
Guard.
kicked everybody's ass because he took on Horror Show, the great big one, and just tossed him around like a buzz toy because he was into Aikido. It was great.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, I really do believe this is a franchise that started with the action figures first and foremost in Paramount and everything. So for me, the G.I. Joe always goes back to the backyard at the Great Lakes Naval Weapons Station housing. I even had a graveyard for those that fell in battle. I was so mad because I was like, when we were moving from there to Virginia, I was not convinced it was real this time. So I never dug them up to take them with me because it wasn't like I was digging that shallow or, that deep. And I remember screaming at my mother. We had to go back when I realized it was for real because they were still buried back there. So I still cry a little bit inside, but they
Maybe
got
someone
good.
found them, like maybe you made some kid's day,
Or 20 years from now, someone's like, "Oh, there are GI Joes buried here somewhere. I bet I could sell them for a fortune."
Well, then you made their day.
Yeah, but yeah, it was a thing. I had the whole backyard turned into like mounds and like a little setups for the figures to do their fighting. Come to think of it, I kind of lacked a little bit in tactics, just like in some of the cartoons, because it was always just straight ahead, straight up the middle.
Was anybody else vaguely disappointed that they used laser guns in the cartoon?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just wanted to see bullets. I like it when they ran out of bullets. There was one issue where Scarlet, Snake Eyes, and Rock and Roll were the only three, and they were caught behind the lines. They were taking on a bunch of Hajis. And this is before you couldn't really talk bad about Hajis. And they convinced Rock and Roll to leave and get message back to the rest of the Joes while she and Snake Eyes were going to stay there and hold everybody off. And they were going Winchester. And I was like, this is so cool because what are they going to do? But no, on the show they had lasers. It's disappointing.
Okay.
Once I started reading the comic, that was when I couldn't watch the cartoon anymore because the comic, although still obviously out there, was more realistic and they had more realistic weaponry and equipment. And once I got into that, I couldn't go back.
Anybody
Larry
remember
Hama did a great job.
So hold on. So Andrew has a heart out. We knew that going in, but he's just die hard enough. He wanted to come on anyway. So Andrew, what are you working on right now? And then how can listeners and viewers find you? And we'll put all that in the show notes. And we're definitely revisiting this topic because this felt like it was very scattergun and just, a bunch of adults drilling over their childhood memories. And that's totally okay. But we want to be a little bit more targeted as we dive into some of these franchises we know and love or love to hate, whatever works.
Yeah, man. You can find me. My website is andrewwarrenbooks.com. And I'll have a new book. So I have two main series. One is a spy thriller series, the Thomas Kane series. And then the other is the space fantasy series, which are the Talon books. And I'll have a new one of each of those coming out probably in about 6 months.
Okay. All right. So that'll be in the show notes. You could follow them. We appreciate your stopping by. And now we'll get back to our regularly scheduled nerd session. LaVoice, you were saying.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was great. And we'll have you back because we're going to dive deeper into this topic. I can just tell by Nick's passion. He'll be in the talk for a little bit after this show, but it's okay.
Yeah. It's like an onion. There's many layers.
All right.
Andrew. I was talking about, there was one issue that I think was the only one that I held on to out of my original collection of the comics. Because back then I was a subscriber and they were mailed to me. which was
Thank
like
you,
my
Mark.
favorite day of the month, the comic day when the comics would show up in my mailbox. But it was the wordless issue. Does anybody remember that one? There was not a
I'm
single
sorry, what was
word.
the title?
It was, I don't remember the title. That's what kills me. But it was the issue where Scarlet had been captured by Destro, and they were in this mountain stronghold. There was not a single word in the whole comic because it was the first time you really got a good look at Storm Shadow. And Snake Eyes went in to rescue her by himself. And this was when you found out that both Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow had the Ashikaji clan tattoos on their arms. And it opened up this whole world of Cobra Ninjas versus Joe Ninjas. And there was not a
21.
single word.
Issue 21.
Right,
And
21.
I'm pretty sure that's
The
Larry
silent
Hama.
issue.
Yep. That's all. Oh shit! I have that. It's still because I was going through my comic collection. It was still there.
You still got it?
Yeah.
Ah, jealous.
In the
Jealous.
closet.
That's a great
Yeah, because
issue.
Klaus Janson did the artwork and Larry Hama wrote the story. Sorry, that's where I come in for this show. I'm the comic book historian dork. So
No, man, we need you. We need you. Because I couldn't remember the title. What was the title of the story?
hold on, I got it right up here. It was G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, Volume 1, Issue 21.
Mars will send no more.
Was that what it was? Yeah, I guess it was, huh?
Kind of a weird title. Doesn't really make sense to me, but okay.
That's weird. Denny O'Neil was the editor for that. Oh my
Yeah.
god, legend! Silent Interlude. That was the name of the issue. Silent Interlude.
Yeah.
You heard it here, probably not first, boys and girls, but you probably did hear it for the first time if you're not a fan of Google or a super fan.
Or G.I. Joe in general.
Or G.I. Joe in general, which is fine.
Just the chuckles.
You're just a big Chuckles fan? That explains why you married me. Half beachhead, half Chuckles. I don't have a southern accent, though.
No.
I like Quinn.
The
Quinn was
intelligence
cool.
person.
Quinn was cool. I like Tunnel Rat. He came with the most crap.
Yeah.
And he was all like tiger striped out in his camis and Nightlight. Not Nightlight. Maybe it was Nightlight.
Flash, Zap.
Those were the original dudes.
Some of the original guys.
Grunt,
Stalker,
Hawk.
Grunt. Yeah. Clutch.
Those are the ones I had. Clutch. And then towards the end of that run, that's when you start getting Scarlet. Snake Eyes was part of the 1982 line towards the end.
Well, Scarlet was in issue 1.
Well, in the comic books. Yeah.
Sorry, that's my
talking
main
Toyland.
experience with Joe was the comics. I didn't care a whole lot for the cartoon, and I absolutely despise the films. They're all just awful.
The live action ones, I'm not a big fan of. No.
Yeah, but no, I was huge into the comics, so that's basically
I almost
what
got
I
a
based on.
seizure watching G.I. Joe the movie because it was so that and Transformers the movie, all the
Yeah.
flashing lights. I was like,
Tango Foxtrot.
Yeah, Transformers the movie was an abomination. So we should talk about
that,
Transformers some other
live
time.
action or the 1980 Transformers?
No, the live
Well,
action. The 1980 was childhood trauma.
no, I'm talking about the
Beautiful.
cartoon because it was a
I
90-minute freaking music video. I bought the 4-disc box set when it came out. I think it was like a decade, 20th, 30th, might have been 30th anniversary. I don't know. But I watched it. I'm like, man, this is going to hold up. It's going to bring me right back to my childhood. I'm like, man, younger Nick was an idiot. This is horrible. And then Prime dies, and I'm like, yep, there it is. There's the childhood trauma. That's where it all started.
Apparently, those writers went to the Joss Whedon school of "I'm going to mess you up" for about a decade.
I wouldn't be surprised if Joss Whedon was involved in somehow.
They taught him.
Mm-hmm.
They did it first.
It's like,
That is the real reason for Prime Day.
yeah.
Yuck, yuck, yuck.
So that we could have Prime
Autobots
Day.
transform and roll out.
So we've talked about what our childhood memory. So let's spin it looking forward. At one point in time, Amazon had the Open Worlds program, and G.I. Joe was one of the open worlds people could write in. Anyone that had their books in it either left them languish and just unpublished, or they stripped the G.I. Joe out and made it its own thing. So could you see if that franchise sort of wanted to reboot itself? Could you see it working in a modern age? Would it have to be more serious, or is there room for that 1980s camp? And by camp, I mean campy nature of the G.I. Joe franchise initially. I haven't read the comics, so I don't know like what storylines. I don't know how serious, gritty, or
The
whatever.
comics are entirely different than
The comics have been
cartoon series.
redone and rebooted several times by several different companies. The property
Same
has
with the
changed
cartoon.
hands multiple times. Some of them are really, really well done, and some of them were just as bad as the films.
The best ones you're going to find in the comic book series, look for the name written by Larry Hama.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
If it's not written by Larry Hama, don't bother reading it. It's going to be some BS. It's going to suck. Because I've fallen for that trap before, and I'm tired of getting my goddamn heart broken.
It's okay,
Oh,
buddy. We're
poor
here
Dick.
for you.
Do you
My
need a
lord.
tissue?
I'm almost
I think
I
he needs a
probably
hug,
do.
Stabby.
But I'm a grunt, so I'm just going to...
Did you
There
know?
we go.
Did you
I'm
know
almost
that
worried
a couple
about
years
what writers today would do with G.I. Joe with the whole march towards everything, trying to ruin all these 80s and 90s shows with their remakes. So
Well,
I have to
Scarlet
agree
and
with
Lady
Paul
J
because-
would really be in charge. That'd be the first thing.
Right. And they would demasculate Flint, Hawk, Snake Eyes, Duke, everybody, because they're the definition of toxic masculinity. When I'm growing up, these were the definition of men. They were honorable. They were trustworthy. They kicked ass. They will choke you the hell out and then sing songs about it.
Or
And then
sing
go fight
while they
some-
choke you out.
Or, yeah. While they're singing, they're like, and it's not a lullaby. It's going to be like, and we'd like to choke out Cobra, stuff like that.
Well, and
these
with
guys
the
were
women,
fighting like mutant space aliens and stuff.
Oh God, G.I. Joe the musical. Can you imagine?
oh gosh, it'd be horrible.
I want to
But
be
with the
retired
women, they
Duke
didn't
with
make them wussy either. They didn't
No.
have to be in charge, but they had a place. They had unique skills. They had a job to do. They were
They were
treated,
so girly.
in with
Scarlet
everybody
and
else.
Lady J were always beating on dudes that disrespected them.
Yeah, they were awesome without having to demasculate any of the guys. It wasn't a contest. It was everybody has their job. They have their things they're good at, and
Even
everyone was
CoverGirl.
allowed to do it. Yeah,
Oh,
CoverGirl.
CoverGirl was the shit.
Well, and they even had the one episode where it was one of these weird ones that I'm sure Michael hates, where there was a siren thing that screwed up the men, and you ended up with it was all women doing this thing. And yet it was a one throwaway episode, but it pointed out that in both of the organizations, there were plenty of people of all genders, and they made it work.
Well, it was the first 2 episodes of the series where they were up in space and they were trying to do that like triangle weather controlling thing. And one of the Cobra he wasn't even a cool Cobra. He was just one of the basic foot soldiers with the helmet and the COVID mask. And he said something disrespectful to Lady J, or no, Scarlet. And she's like, that is not how you talk to a lady, and just thrashes
just
the living
wailed on
dog
him.
shit out of him. Just
It
thrashes
was
him.
great.
And that was cool because I think those stories back then, it was great because it empowered women and empowered men too, or empowered little girls and empowered boys. Because I remember on the playground, as a young kid, we'd be playing G.I. Joes and like somebody's sister tagging like, oh, I know this. That's Lady J and that's Scarlet. She's like, I want to be them when I grow up. I'm like, cool, I want to be V-Ched. You want to play? And they're like, hell yeah. Next you know, we're having fights in the front yard with our Joes. And she's like, I even got mine. Can I bring them over? I'm like, okay, keep your duplicates though, because I don't want you mixing them with mine because that's a fight I don't want to have with a girl. But it was a great time to be a kid.
Away.
Oh, we did incorporate My Little Pony.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Go
they
on.
Were, they were
I got to hear this.
Okay, so G.I. Joe will fit perfectly on a My Little Pony, and it'll look like a Clydesdale. So we had the Pony Cavalry.
Yes.
The Joes.
Awesome. Okay.
We had a Pony Cavalry. She had like 6 of them. So, of course, we put our headliners on there. We had Duke. We had Snake Eyes. Snake Eyes had both swords out, because he was awesome. And then as the show progressed and they switched Storm Shadow from being a bad guy to a good guy, then he got his own horse. We kicked somebody else off a pony, and then that was Storm Shadow's pony. It was awesome. God, I miss being a kid. That was such a great time to be a child.
I
So
was
if you-
thinking at that
really
point.
were a great
No,
time
it
being
was,
a
Jamie.
child.
I love Jamie.
What was that, Sparks?
I said, children. The '80s were always a great time to be a child growing up.
You know what it wasn't good for? The ozone or your lungs if you were near one of those Aquafina girls, because I'm telling you that that hairspray was deadly.
I watched my mom put a lit cigarette in her mouth while pumping gas in 1984.
Aquanet, not Aquafina.
So apparently gas wasn't flammable in 1984.
So,
Oh yeah, Aquanet, not Aquafina. That's water.
okay,
Aquanet
well,
makes your hair concrete.
pretty much. So if you were going to reboot G.I. Joe, but take the IP out of it and just sort of build your own version of it, would you do the campy 1980s throwback? Would you make it grittier? How would you do it if you were re-envisioning your childhood with, the serial numbers filed off?
First of all, they'd have bullets, not lasers. People
Would they hit
die.
anything? Okay.
Yeah, it's not the A-Team. Okay, you're gonna hit something. Nobody
No
gets
hip
shot
fire
off
and
camera.
You're actually going to put the iron sights up to your eye and aim at
Right.
your target.
But yeah, I think
Another
it could be
thing.
grittier. I wouldn't take away from some of the central characters and their character traits that made them who they were. Like Clutch was always a wisecracking, but he could drive anything, so you didn't really get onto him too much. And of course, Stalker always had something to say, and it usually rhymed. And Gung Ho, of course, their version of the cult of the Corps. Bare chested in the snow in Alaska, the first issue that we met Quinn.
Wearing a vest. Just wearing a vest.
And all he carried was that friggin' grenade launcher. It's like, seriously, dude?
Oh,
You don't even have a sidearm.
You got to have an alternate weapon system, sir.
Yeah, definitely. But I would love to see. That was funny, Paul. I'd love to see a modern version of it where they're maybe not as flashy, maybe a little more covert in how they do stuff. Because
so you can have them as Navy SEALs because they don't do anything without a battalion of PR and they write books about it 5 seconds when the mission's done.
You got a CNN news crew with them.
Yeah, so it'd have to be like Green Beret or Space Warrior, Space Force Door Gunners or something. I don't know.
Or the best special operations unit that ever walked the face of man, the United States
the Army Light Infantry,
the Army Ranger.
Walk the face of man?
Yeah, because
they walk on people.
Okay. Okay.
Walk the face of the planet. I don't know. I've been drinking, man. You know what I'm saying.
I feel you, man. I feel you.
ROTW, baby.
I thought the two G.I. Joe movies, Rise of Cobra and Retaliation, stayed pretty true to the characters and did a pretty good job with everything. I mean, they had enough serious, but they kept the campiness of it.
Yeah.
And I thought they were actually really good, even though they got horrible reviews.
Yeah,
I enjoyed
one of the reviewers, I'm sure.
I may have to revisit those. I remembered not enjoying them. And the Snake Eyes reboot, I turned off about 20 minutes into.
I think the best part of Retaliation is when Jinx and Snake Eyes were going up that mountain, that fight scene with the Cobra Ninjas. They're all rappelling and
the color-coded ones.
Yeah, it was really awesome. And I
wonder where they got that idea.
I wish they would have did more about Jinx's bad luck, but whatever. Being a purist, but I thought that was really cool.
Okay, well,
talk.
Although I really can't watch Rise of Cobra much anymore because I was in the middle of watching it when I got a text from a friend while we were at my cousin's wedding saying that my father had died.
Oh, I'm sorry, man.
Oh.
Yikes, dude. Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, sorry to hear that, brother.
G.I. Joe
yeah, that'll kill a movie for you, wouldn't it?
Has some history with me.
Okay.
But I still thought it was a great movie.
I did enjoy the movie too. I know, I enjoy some of the movies that get slammed by the critics. The campier, the better. I mean, I'm the guy that liked the Starship Troopers movie. I didn't read the books first, so I loved it. I mean, aside from the shower scene, I loved, watching them kill the bugs. I did notice the lack of tactics, but
my company and Ranger Battalion, actually it was the battalion commander, gave us a half-day pass on opening day of Starship Troopers because they were wearing black berets, and the battalion commander had decreed that they were Space Rangers.
Space Rangers, I like it.
Nice.
So we've
the formation.
As we've been doing the show, Stabby has been finding more art for us of some of the iconic Joes.
Oh,
These
yeah.
aren't
Back
mine,
when
by the
G.I.
way.
Joe was just one guy. G.I. Joe with a Kung Fu grip.
Oh,
I had
yeah.
that one. My
It was
brother
just
and
the
I
four
had the whole
branches.
collection back then.
Yeah, and the nurse. There's 4 branches and the nurse.
And the nurse, yeah.
Yeah, they had their little oversized dog tags.
I gotta find that camo pattern. I'm gonna be a Marine GI Joe one day for Halloween. It's gonna be awesome.
All
Yeah,
right.
they did the coasties too.
Yeah, I mean, no one's perfect. Although jokes of all jokes, when I was my unit in Iraq, the second time was stationed at Camp Arif John, Kuwait, and we just picked up convoys and spent all our time on the road. At Camp Arif John, they did have a pool, and you'll never guess, but it was a coastie that was the lifeguard. That was his combat deployment as the pool lifeguard at Camp Arif John. The jokes write themselves, people.
I'm getting blown up, and he's pulling lifeguard duty. Trade
for combat pay. For combat pay.
I joined the wrong branch. Holy crap!
Oh yeah, there were many times that I told myself that. But yeah, so we've talked about where we found it, our favorite good guys, bad guys, vehicles, memories of. There's definitely more room, and I think we'll be more targeted and more organized next time. The first time we do these franchise deep dives, it's mostly just us having fun and nerding out and going all over the place, and I like that. There's room for that. But if we let it, this will go on for hours. And people have to sleep. The writers that are on the podcast apparently have day jobs. I don't know what that's all about. So we're gonna let them tell us
what for that.
Yeah, I mean, just arrest your sleep. What's that for? We're gonna let our guests tell us what they're writing, and then and where our listeners can find them. We're gonna start with you because I'm going round robin at the top of the square. Paul, what are you working on, and how can they find you?
I have an Amazon author page under Paul Sparks. I've got an author page on Facebook, Paul Sparks Author. And right now I'm working on a short story to submit to Canon Publishing for their competition they've got right now. It's a military sci-fi / space opera.
I'm in.
I've got that's about what I'm working on right now. And I've got 3 anthologies already out, and I've got a 4th one coming out through 3 Ravens in Mark Christopher's Corsari universe.
Cool.
All right. And then we're just going to go left to right because, who needs the alphabet? We're grunts. LaVoice, what are you working on, and how can listeners find you? And next time we'll have you time on target, and you can have more time to blab with us.
Yeah, if I can get my audio issues fixed. Let's see. They can find me on my website, michaellavoice.com. I'm also on Amazon. I have an author page there. I also have an author page on Facebook. Also on X. Yes. And on Facebook and X, I am that Michael LaVoice, not just Michael LaVoice. Because I found out recently there's a whole bunch of us out there, especially in upstate New York. I don't know what happened, but that's where they are. Right now, I am working on outlining another series that is called Gladius Leagues. It takes place in a far future. It's your basic powered, armored humans who forgot to fight, but they fight warfare by proxy now through a very NFL / WWE type league called Gladius Leagues. Those resolve the political disputes until we get attacked by aliens. We don't know what to do about it. I'm also working on a collaboration with Peter Stanley from 3 Ravens. We're trying to world build together and come up with a worthy Space Navy saga, since everybody seems to have one. And then, of course, my series Galaxy's Most Wanted starts releasing in December.
Outstanding. So we did show the G.I. Joe spacecraft, and now we've got G.I. Nurse. So she comes with crutches to beat any of the untoward Joes that try to get a little grabby grab and thought, she would be as lonely as they were. And with that being said, thank you, Stabby, for your deep dive, but I think it's time to quit. We're running out of time to show all these pictures you're finding us. All right. So, Isaac, can you tell us what you're working on now and how they can find you?
Yes, currently I've got my own Amazon author page. I'm the only Isaac Kraft who is an author.
That's handy.
Yes, because there's a lot of Isaac Crafts out there. I've got almost a dozen short flash fiction pieces in the Corner Scribblers anthologies under Three Ravens. I've got a Facebook page, Isaac Craft. I'm currently trying my hand at young adult fiction. I've got a story in the works currently at 15,000 words, and hoping that I have finally found my niche where I can try to get this to a novel. Hopefully it will work. Anyhow.
Okay. Well, there's always time, and we'll have you back to talk about it whenever it launches. And then because we want to showcase the prettiest one on the way out of our visiting authors, we're going to let Jenna or Jana, her choice, introduce what she's working on and tell us how they can find her. And as usual, all of the links will be in the show notes.
Oh, you're so sweet. You can find all of the different me's at opalkingdompress.com. Go there, and that has links to all of the other things. And yes, all the links are almost fixed. Guess what I've been doing for the last 2 days as I twitch in place trying to do web updates. I hate web updates. But you can find me there. I am working on the third book in a fantasy trilogy, and I'm updating a military sci-fi romance for release a little bit later this year.
Okay. Did you make me the main character of your romance?
Shh. Don't ask, don't tell.
Outstanding. All right. Sorry, Nick.
Spoilers, darling.
It's all beautiful now. All right. And if you want to support the show, as usual, our sponsor, the Coffee Brand Coffee, the show notes will have the link. You can click that and we get a little bit of kickback. But if you use our podcast code, which is Podcast Grunts, you get a discount. So, who doesn't love saving a few bucks, right? Now that we've done all that, I would like to remind you to please be kind and speak your mind on the reviewing platforms. Your reviews help the right readers find the right books. So do your part, people. I don't know if you realize this, but the reading, writing community, it's kind of like a little bit of symbiosis, right? A little bit of yin to the yang. You got to do your part. So if you like a series, tell your friends, leave a review, tell the publisher or the author that it's worth continuing. Otherwise, don't complain when they get canceled unfinished because nobody was buying them. And with that being said, since our guests have already told us where to find them, you could find us on our link tree, which is linktr.ee/Blasters and Blades Podcast. Again, linktr.ee/Blasters and Blades Podcast. We link to all the things, the BitChute, the Rumbles, the Twitters, the email, the Facebook group where all the shenanigans happen, and you can join the discussion over there. As soon as we have a dedicated URL, we're working on some behind-the-scenes stuff for the Facebook page. We'll link to that as well. And you can follow us on our website, which is anchor.fm/blasters-and-blades. Again, anchor.fm/blasters-and-blades. You can support the show there for as little as 99 cents a month. You can help keep the lights on. Speaking of websites, Nick recently bought the domain name Blasters and Blades, and he's going to be doing his little computery didgeridoos. I don't know, like
a little keyboard wizardry.
Yeah, he's going to do the magic, and we're going to have a website. Link to our
no, we're going to have a merch store. I wouldn't call it a website.
I mean, you do the hand wavium, magic, sprinkle a little fairy dust. I don't know. It's all special.
These are the merch you're looking for.
All right, and
MRE coffee creamer that's flammable.
Outstanding.
All pulled out of 100% biodegradable MREs.
Absolutely. You can support the show more directly at buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Again, buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. If you didn't notice, we're addicted to coffee. Everything's coffee these days. I don't know what our problem is. Maybe I should switch to decaf. Nah, screw it. No decaf for us. But
Coke's illegal.
If you use the Buy Me a Coffee link, be sure to put in the comment section that it's for the podcast. And I promise I will keep my co-host duly caffeinated. They will drink until the Java pours out of their eyeballs. Wow. I got no excuses. It's not even a long episode tonight.
Coffee beans.
You're making them twitch, dude.
Yeah, like I could see the sound and I could hear the colors. It's glorious, man. All right. Yeah, somebody like clip that and we're going to make that our new commercial. Thank you for spending some of your precious time with us. For my crazy co-hosts, I am JR Handley, and this was the Blasters and Blades podcast. The podcast that's so caffeinated, JR can't even think straight. We'll be back
It
next
shows
week.
up on a drug test.
It does. That's the only way. We'll be back next week at the same time where we'll indulge our love of nerd culture, cheesy jokes, and all things that go boom. Wow, I can't talk tonight, people. Again, I am on my 9th cup of coffee, but oops. Is that available with an affiliate link? I'm just asking for a friend.
I don't know. I'm going to look, though. Because this thing is awesome. And I just learned that Stabby brought this into the marriage today.
How is she holding out on you?
I don't know,
What other
man. She's
secrets is
an
she keeping?
onion. Many layers.
What other secrets are you keeping?
Not
Next
everybody
year-
like onion, Shrek.
She's going to tell
You
us
mean
she
this
has
thing?
a flagship, and we didn't know it.
How about a parfait?
There's probably one in the garage with all the crap we got down there. She just stuck it in off the U-Haul and never saw it.
Just
All
don't
right.
open that 1983
The Holy Grail since I
trunk
was 9.
downstairs.
Do you have the
Okay.
holy hand grenade of Antioch?
All right. With that being said, people, thank you for stopping by. Ignore the shenanigans happening in the background. The Peanut Gallery wanted to be heard from today. And we're out.